You must be at least 18 years of age to listen to the following podcast. Hi, you're listening to Sexual Heroes with host Robert Black. That's me. And this is podcast number 12 with very special guest, Miss Coco, Peru. Wow. Miss Coco Peru is an award-winning actress, writer, and storyteller/monologist. She has appeared in feature films, on television, and on stage all over the world. My partner Ken and I have had the pleasure of watching Miss Coco perform live on several occasions, and the cult classic Girls Will Be Girls is a favorite of ours. Hi, Miss Coco.
Hello, how are you?
I'm great. How are you tonight?
I'm very good. A little toasty warm down here in Los Angeles.
Oh, well, I'm a little further south of you.
I know you're in San Diego. I was supposed to come there tomorrow, but we canceled our trip.
Oh, it's been humid.
I like humid. It's good for my skin.
I want you to know I'm so starstruck. I'm very nervous.
Oh, well, don't be nervous.
Okay. I feel better now. I just had to say it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know. I remember the first time I ever went on a date. That was the first thing I told my turned out to be a boyfriend. I said, I would just want you to know I'm terribly nervous.
Did it help?
It did, and then he said he was nervous too, and then we had a delightful time.
So, for the people who are going to be listening to this who don't know the difference, the different transgender terms, and some of the nuances behind them, you're a drag queen, correct? Is that the right term?
Yes.
So someone might say, well, isn't that the same as a transvestite? What do you say to that?
Well, I don't know really about transvestite. I mean, I know like a transgendered person is someone who feels like were born into the wrong body, and a crossdresser is someone who sort of maybe perhaps gets sexually turned on wearing the opposite gender clothing. And then drag queens are usually gay men who dress up in women's clothes to entertain. To entertain. That's kind of a key element. But do you consider yourself part of the transgender community? I do.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Yep.
I do. And especially because, for me, when I was growing up, gender was all very confusing for me. I remember being very young and always drawn to girl toys and wanted girl toys, and I never asked for them or would figure out ways to play with them. You know, either my neighbor, fortunately I had a neighbor who was a lesbian who had like an enormous Barbie doll collection that she could give a shit about. And there I had my G.I. Joe collection, and we were perfect together. We would just swap toys. And then my niece, who was close in age, she was more like a sister to me. I played a lot with her toys behind closed doors. But so gender for me was very confusing. And then I remember in the 70s, they started talking about transsexuals, and I thought, well, maybe that's what I am. I was supposed to be born a girl because I've always wanted girl toys, and I loved dresses, and I always wanted to play with other girls. But then, and I knew I loved boys. But then as I, got older, I became more comfortable with being gay, and then definitely still had this longing to express myself, though, and I didn't feel like the world was black and white. I felt like things were more fluid, and drag sort of helped me address that part of my life.
So when was the first time that you started to dress up?
Well, as a kid, I used to sneak into my mother's, drawers and put on earrings, and I loved her scarves collection. And then later in college, I dressed up one night, but it was Halloween.
Ah, yeah, it's always excusable on Halloween.
Yeah, and it wasn't even good drag. I mean, it was really bad, almost I would say boy drag.
Uh-huh.
And, because it was, what's his name was popular at the time from Culture Cup, Boy George. So it was sort of like almost that kind of drag.
Right. That sort of androgynous thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then later, when I sort of got to this point in my life and saw Charles Busch in a play and thought that it was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And also, drag scared me. I mean, I used to go to gay bars and I was terrified of the drag queens. But his type of drag was, theater, and I was very drawn. I was a theater major, so I loved what he was doing. And then, so I started thinking about it, and I created Coco and did Coco, and then became a part of the drag world that I was so terrified of. I think I was terrified of it as well because there was a part of me that didn't want to admit to wanting to dress in drag and express that part of myself. And when I finally became comfortable with that and said it out loud, I actually said that I was going to be a drag queen, and just stating that, all of a sudden everything in my life just fell into place. It was, for me, I have to say, and this always sounds corny, but people talk about having a religious calling or, a calling to something, and I felt that. I felt like I had a calling to drag, and as soon as I, answered the call, I'd never experienced that in my life where everything started snowballing and everything, I just knew everything was going to work out.
That's so great.
And it seems silly, because it's drag, but truly, it was just everything became very focused in that moment of my life.
Well, let's back up for a second. You said that drag was very scary, and I think that drag queens do scare some people. Why is that?
Well, drag for me was scary. I think it scares people for a lot of different reasons. Drag for me was scary. One reason was because there were parts of myself that I was very ashamed about. And I think growing up in the Bronx and being called a sissy and a girl boy and being ostracized because I was effeminate, the last thing I wanted to do was address that and admit to having those feminine qualities. Mm-hmm. But when I finally became secure and I was around in the gay community enough, and I did start to go to gay bars and meet drag queens. I started to feel more comfortable with it, and definitely seeing Charles Busch, I thought, okay, I can do this. This mm-hmm. is something I can address.
So he was really a role model.
Yes, definitely. And what's great is that we later became friends, and I loved that. And I also fell in love with Julie Halston, who was in his shows, and she became a friend. And my boyfriend's saying goodbye. Goodbye.
Bye.
And drive safely, okay? All right. And then we became friends, and I loved something that he and Julie said was that Coco Peru was the love child of Charles Busch and Julie Halston. And if you don't know who Julie Halston is, she's hilarious, and she's got a very thick New York accent, which is sometimes very similar to mine.
I'll be Googling her right after this interview. Would it be safe to say that you are living every drag queen's dream? Oh,
I don't know, because, it's very funny, because when you're going about your own life, you're thinking of all the things you should be doing, and, dreams that haven't been fulfilled, and suddenly I'll get an email from somebody who lives in the middle of the country somewhere who wants to be a drag queen, and they're looking up to me mm-hmm. as if I'm doing everything that they've always dreamed of doing. And then it hits me thinking, wow, I do have a great life. I get to travel. People enjoy my work. I get nice emails from people. So suddenly it hits me. But when you're going from your day-to-day reality, sometimes it looks bleak, but then all of a sudden, something like an email from someone like that will make me realize that I have so much to be grateful for.
You have truly a glamour job.
Listen, when you see my room, actually my partner and I moved into a new house, and I have my own room now for Coco, and he's so happy because when the drag queen explodes in here, he doesn't have to deal with the mess.
I've been around Chi-Chi LaRue. I know what it means when a drag queen explodes.
You know, I love Chi-Chi LaRue. Every time someone mentions her name, I just get a little happy.
Some people have the opposite reaction.
I'm sure they do, but she's very sweet to me whenever I see her.
Yeah.
And he's just got this wonderful laugh that always makes me happy.
So, how much time do you spend as Coco when you're not performing?
Not too often. I mean, I have to say, I don't really love putting all of the makeup and stuff on. So when I'm not performing, or going to a party where I've been asked to come as Coco, I'm usually not dressed as Coco. I mean, I've done it a few times where I'll wake up in the morning and I'll think, I think I need to be Coco today, and I'll just go out. I'll go shopping, or I'll go to, for a walk through my neighborhood, and just to experience that, and see people's reactions, and it just makes me, it empowers me on some level. And also, I always say this, but it's true, there's inevitably, anytime I go out in the world, maybe it'll get less as I'm getting older, but men always pull over and think that I'm a hooker, which thrills me to death. And I just love that someone actually thinks that I'm a hooker.
It's a huge compliment, isn't it?
Oh, I think it's great. I literally came home one day with about 5 phone numbers, and I threw them at my husband, and I said, honey, if things ever get tough, there's always options.
That's right. Who's the toughest crowd? Or either a type of audience, whether it be lesbians or straight people or whoever it might be, or the toughest place that you've ever played?
I find that, first of all, I need at least 75 to 80% of the audience must be gay people, because if it's too heavily straight,
they don't get it.
They don't get it, or they need permission to laugh.
Uh-huh.
So I find that I need a lot of gay people in my audience to get it going. To get the straight people at least.
Right.
To say, this is okay to laugh here, because they get it, and then they can sort of relax and laugh.
Do lesbians get it?
Yeah, I have a huge lesbian following, and they do get it. And they're always they kind of, I've even had lesbians with crushes on Coco, which is lovely. And so, yeah, I love my lesbian audience. And I think it's great when lesbians actually, actually have said to me that they always had this really negative reaction to drag, and they always, thought drag was insulting to women, but they sort of rethought it after seeing my show, which I think is great.
See, you've become the role model.
Well, but I always felt like when I first came out, I went to a gay bar and I said, "Where are all the women?" And these gay men were shocked that I asked that, because it was women had their own bars and we didn't hang out together, and I never felt comfortable with that. So I like a nice mix, and I like that at my audience as well.
Can you talk about some of your upcoming gigs? I know one interesting thing is the cruise line.
Yeah, I've been working with a company called Travel Pride, and they're based out of Fort Lauderdale, and the kind of trips that they offer are different than most of the other types of cruises that are geared towards gay people. They're on smaller ships, so usually there's only about 150 to maybe 200 guests.
Oh, that's nice.
It's really nice, and they're a little bit more upscale, so they're of course a little more expensive. But so sometimes the crowd can be a little bit older, and usually it's more couples. But there are younger people on the trip, and there are single people on the trip. But the thing that I love about it the most is that people get to know each other, and I've remained friends with a lot of people that have been on the trips.
Do they own their own boats, or
no? They don't. They just they charter boats, and
but it's 100% gay. Yeah.
Yes. Although this past trip to France, there was one straight girl that came on it. with a gay friend of hers.
Oh, they allowed that, huh?
Yeah. Oh, she was great.
Anything else that you'd like to mention and to plug?
Well, that I'm going to this next week. I'll be in P-Town for one or two nights.
I love P-Town.
Then I fly to Rehoboth Beach in Delaware. And then I'll be in Ogunquit, Maine. Then in September I'll be in Seattle. And then I'm going up to San Francisco for 3 weeks to perform at the Raz Room, which used to be the Plush Room, but they moved it and built this new space called the Raz Room, and I'll be there for 3 weeks.
Wow, I wish I could be there.
I know. You'll be missed. You got to find a space for me down in San Diego. I've never performed there. But I'll get there one of these days.
Well, if anyone's listening to this and they have some connections here, they need to make that happen. And
how is your this new venture of yours going? The Sexual Heroes.
Oh well, a few months ago I didn't know anything about podcasting, and then boom, it was like I caught it as high as number 9 on the chart under health and sexuality in the iTunes. So that was a big deal for me. It's not a big deal, but it was nice to see that. So I know a lot of people are listening.
That's wonderful. And I'm thrilled that I'm being considered a sexual hero.
You are. You are definitely a hero to a lot of people, I'm sure.
I once got an email from an 11-year-old who had seen my logo special.
Oh, I'm sure his parents were thrilled.
He watched it with his parents.
Oh.
11 years old. He watched it with his parents, and he wrote me an email to thank me for everything that I do for the LGBT community. I couldn't believe it. I wanted to write back, first of all, how the fuck does an 11-year-old know what the LGBT community is? But I was really moved. I was a little terrified, too, because, 11-year-old, I just wrote, well, thank you and good luck in school. But the world is changing.
I guess
hopefully
it is.
For the better.
Yeah.
Although it doesn't always seem that way, but we must remain hopeful, I guess.
Well, thank you very much, Miss Coco.
Well, thank you, Robert, and I hope to see you in San Diego.
I hope so. I hope
sooner
than later.
Do you ever take that big hike down to Black's Beach?
Oh, I did it once. I almost didn't make it back up. They almost had to get the chopper.
That's a story. I used to go there a lot, and then we were going to go there tomorrow. And we canceled the trip because we were both so lazy. I said, I don't know if I'll make it back up the side of that cliff.
Miss Coco wouldn't go on natural, would she?
Well, I don't think Coco would, no.
But you might go with incognito on natural. Oh.
I saw 2 sharks on that beach. There's an article today in the LA Times about the very sharks that I saw.
Wow.
They're called leopard sharks. They're bottom feeders. Of course, I didn't know that as I was standing up to my waist in water, and 2 4-foot sharks swam.
So they won't eat tops, they'll only eat bottoms?
They only eat bottoms.
Then I have nothing to worry about.
You have nothing to worry about. Honey, you need to make that trip back down there.
Okay.
Anyway, thank you, and good luck with everything.
You'll find a glamorous photo of Miss Coco, along with a link to her website, which includes a detailed professional biography, at sexualheroes.com. Music in this podcast is from the Podshow Podsafe Music Network. Check it out at music.podshow.com.